Welcome to today's lesson, CSS Syntax and Selectors. So what is CSS Syntax? This consists of two sections. We are going to be looking at the selector section of the syntax and the declaration block section of the syntax. So the selector points to the HTML element you want to style, right? So whichever element that you want to apply a style to, that element will be your selector. And the declaration block contains one or more declarations separated by semicolons. And what each declaration is a property and a name which is separated by a colon. And this kind of like styles the property that you have selected that you want to style. And then the value will be what value do you want to assign to that property. So we are going to take a look at what that means. So for example, let's look at the selector, which is basically an H1 selector, which is a header one selector. And then I can have a declaration block here, which is going to look something like this, right? So it's going to contain an opening and closing braces. And then here you're going to have your one or more declaration blocks. And you can see that we separated this by a semicolon, right? So this is one declaration, right? And then this is another declaration. So the entire thing is your declaration block, right? So this first one in yellow is your property, right? What property of the H1 do you want to uh, make changes to or style, right? So this one is saying that the property called color of my H1 selector, right? I want to make a style. I want to change a style, right? I want to apply a style to it. So this is your property and this will be your value, right? So this is saying that you want to apply a value of red to the property color to the H1. So you want to basically color your header red, right? And this property font size is basically saying that you want to change the size of your font, right? And the value you want to assign to your font now, you want it to be 10 pixels. So that is how the declaration block works. So basically, it's as simple as having your selector and applying your styles to the declaration block. So let's take an example to show what we just discussed. And we're gonna write an HTML document and then put a style in the document. So if you haven't taken the HTML class, you should go to my HTML beginner to expert class and take that before we talk about CSS. But you can follow along if you know some basic HTML because we're not going to be talking in depth into HTML. So let's just create an HTML document and we're going to have our HTML and then our head, and then we're going to have our body. Okay, and I'm going to put two paragraphs in the body. So the P here stands for a paragraph, right? So I'm going to just say welcome everybody. So if I just refresh this, just so you can see what this looks like, it's just gonna display welcome everybody as a P, right? And I'm gonna create another paragraph down here and say This is a paragraph. Assuming I can spell paragraph. Okay, so if I refresh it again, you can see this as a paragraph. So we do have this uh, two paragraph element in the body of our HTML, but you can see that it's just plain, right? There's no styling to this. So if you wanted to style our HTML, and in this case, our paragraph, what we would be doing, and this is one way we can do it. Again, we talked about some the different types of styling in our HTML class. So we're just going to mention it. We will talk about it again a little down this course. So we are going to have our style block here, and this is where we are going to put our styling, our CSS styling. So like I said, the name of the element that you want to style is your selector. So we're going to have our selector, which in this case is a paragraph, right? So I'm going to select P, and then I'm going to have my curly braces, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have, what do I want to style in the paragraph? Do I want to style the color? So if I want to style the color, I can now choose the color attribute, right? And then the value will be what color do you want to assign to this attribute. So I'm going to say style it red, right? So if I refresh this again, you can see that the style of the paragraph has changed. What else do we want to do? Let's say we want to style the font size. So again, you have to separate it with a semicolon. And then the next attribute you want to style would be font size. And then colon. And then the value you want to assign to this, let's say 20 pixels. And if I refresh this again, see that the size of the of our fonts has changed. So this is just an example of how CSS uh, property value and selectors and declarations work. As you can see, the P, again, this is just to rehash what we talked about. The P is the selector in the CSS, and this will point to the element, which is the paragraph, right, that you wanted to style, right? The color here is the property that you want to change, right? So the property, which is color, you wanted to change it to a value, and that value is red, right? And so you can do it to multiple properties, right? If I wanted to add, say, a third one called text align, and I wanted to say maybe let's center this, right? And I refresh this, you can see that it's centered on the page, right? So this is just part of our introductory lessons to CSS. So you would want to know the syntax of CSS and what each of the various sections of the syntax means and does. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.